We are back for our last speaker, Naomi Porter, who will be discussing what changes she thinks need to happen in our education system.
This is me formally announcing that I will be taking a break from my mental health to focus on school this upcoming academic year. This was a viral TikTok made by a teenager in the United States. But why did this grab the attention of millions? Why this video? In this instance, TikTok is accurate in capturing the experience of secondary students in the United States. The demands of school are overwhelming. The American schooling experience is in direct contrast to experiences in other countries. In fact, when I was younger, I went to school in Dijkerhoek, a small rural town in the Netherlands that prides itself on being populated by more cows than people. Quite possibly, this was the most empowering educational experience for me, even though I speak very little Dutch. But why? Because the children in the Netherlands are the happiest students alive. Are Dutch children happy because they eat bread with chocolate sprinkles in the morning? I certainly was. Is it because most kids bike unchaperoned to school from a very young age? Definitely a factor. Is it because Dutch children have minimal homework and they do not take endless tests? And that it's customary to get a job at the age of 14? I would say yes. Or is it the fact that the Dutch education system prioritizes passion and genuine interest over memorization and standardization? My name is Naomi Porter, and my purpose is to reshape the way we educate youth. School is a solitary experience where we are graded on our individual performance on tests, projects, quizzes, papers. Most of the time, we are pursuing the mastery of specific sets of knowledge that yield one correct answer. We are living in a historic moment of great educational disruption. Now is the time to be bold in how we educate and train young minds. The College Board's decision to phase out SAT subject tests and essays is a good start. Certainly the fact that many colleges have declared their admissions process to be test optional is getting us closer to creating spaces for better mental health. But more needs to be done in order to create meaningful high school experiences that prepare us for the demands of a changing workforce. Let's use this moment to pause and reset our values. We are in the midst of a pandemic-induced pivot where we can alter the course of what we value in education. For baby boomers and Generation X, there was a formula with a clear path to success. Finish high school, easily get into college, major in almost anything, then get a job. But that's not how it works anymore. We have to open our eyes to the inevitable truth. We live in an ever-changing society with a never-changing education system. The biggest problem affecting public schools is that our curriculum needs to be more relevant for the 21st century student. Our education system is trapped in a relevancy catastrophe of our own making. And students are the unfortunate inheritors of this flawed system that values memorization and standardization. A century ago, we reimagined and reinvented the one-room schoolhouse experience to prepare youth for the industrialized workforce. However, we are now in another workforce revolution, and yet we still educate youth in the same way. Teachers deliver instruction and test us on material that we often have no interest in. That knowledge is often forgotten as soon as it is tested. This approach stifles curiosity in the pursuit of conformity and standardization. Simultaneously, secondary students across the globe are saturated with advanced placement and international baccalaureate coursework to prepare for admission to highly selective universities. But I ask you, does all of this rigor prepare us for the jobs of today and tomorrow? Does my ability to analyze a Shakespearean sonnet help me analyze social media metrics? Will my calculus skills help me to navigate the business world and personal taxes and make good investment choices? Will a 5-page essay on the cause and effect of imperialism help me know how to analyze ballot initiatives? But here's the thing. We have the power to change this system. We can spend our time lamenting what is not happening, or we can ask ourselves, what is possible in this moment? Change begins with each of us, our choices. High school students, it starts with our decisions. Let's stop drowning in excessive academic rigor and start living into our passions. We don't have to take every AP class available. We don't have to engage in endless extracurriculars to appear exceptional on college applications. I am living into this path that I'm describing by challenging the norms of junior year. It is simultaneously liberating and terrifying. I will admit that I have received fair warning that my junior year choices might be risky if I plan to gain admission to a top university. But so be it. Will this affect my college acceptances? Who knows at this point? What I do know is that I am not sacrificing my mental health to pursue extreme rigor. Typically, junior year is where we are told to demonstrate our ability to handle college level courses. While it is tempting for me to choose advanced coursework in all academic areas, I am choosing the 2 advanced placement classes that matter for my future, and I am leaving the rest behind. AP Environmental Science? Yes. Let's analyze human-made and natural problems and talk about how we can build a more sustainable future. Let's evaluate how humans are impacting the earth and find interdisciplinary approaches to create real solutions. AP English Language and Composition. Yes. There is value in critically analyzing issues, creating and responding to arguments, and incorporating evidence. AP Chemistry, AP Biology, AP Statistics, AP Physics. The truth is, if I'm sitting at a table with scientists, my role will be to listen and find ways to use entrepreneurship to advance our shared goals. Innovation is truly a team sport, and I don't need to be a science expert because it is collaboration that moves us forward. Students, the greatest commodity Generation Z has is courage. Courage to disrupt the traditional narratives of what is expected of us. Courage to challenge the norms and say yes to change. So what do you have the courage to do? Do you have the courage to claim the power over your education by the classes you choose? What decision will you make that says yes to your mental health? What curriculum choices can you make that will benefit your future? Will you write that blog or article you've been thinking about? Launch that podcast? Apply for that program? Maybe you will reach out to a professor and ask to collaborate on their research. Cold call an organization that aligns with your values and ask for an opportunity to serve. In my experience, the best thing you can do is take that first step. For me, I started Entrepreneurship, an international 501c3 accredited nonprofit organization in 2019 to remove financial and educational barriers for young people to participate in the field of entrepreneurship, financial literacy, and change making. Now we are led by a team of over 200 youth working in 37 countries to ensure equitable educational opportunities for all youth, regardless of their location or background. We have free courses, mentorship, funding opportunities for youth looking to pursue these non-traditional pathways. We have to create meaning for ourselves outside of our education until we are able to have these experiences as part of our formal education. We can't keep waiting for our lives to return to normal. We shouldn't go back to normal because normal wasn't working. Let's see the future as unwritten and do something bold. You write your own narrative by the choices you make and the path you pursue. Because you don't find your path, you make it.
Hi, Naomi. Thank you so much for sharing your innovative vision of education for today's youth.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited for this conversation.
So our first question is that you mentioned that you decided to only take 2 AP classes during junior year. Do you think this choice has left positive impacts beyond your mental health?
Definitely. I think that I'm starting to also prioritize things that really matter to me, and making those kind of thoughts right now in high school will really help me in college to prioritize what matters to me, for general education requirements. Instead of taking these more hard scientists, I would rather take more of humanities. And so kind of this mindset of do what I care about also fits into community service, to getting internships and all of these more common things for high schoolers. And I'm doing them as a high schooler now. And so it's really kind of shaped my mindset about where I want to go and what I want to pursue my passions, and not just fitting into the typical mold of what it looks like to be a junior.
Mm. Our next question is that I know you mentioned in your speech that mental health goes before academic rigor. What advice would you give to teens who want to balance both? Do you think such a balance is possible?
Definitely balancing, mental health and social well-being while also being competitive per se for college is huge. And so for me, what that looked like was taking a summer school class. So that way I took a class in the summer, my history credit, so I had less classes during the school year. And likewise, I'm going towards the places where I feel I can be fully authentic and fully myself. And that creates a better space for mental health. When you have those conversations with people, the general conversations about, well, how are you doing? And then the follow-up of, well, no, really, how are you doing? That has really been instrumental for me, and fostering those relationships has helped me to take a pause and go, okay, now I can go back to schoolwork. And I really think that you have to be at your kind of best mentally before you can perform, physically or on a test. And I think that that is so important. And I mean, something that recently was in the California Board of Education is they approved that mental health now counts as an excused absence. And I think that that is a huge step in the right direction for education, because not all illnesses are physical. And it's so important that when you're not feeling your best, you can't do your best, but you need to be kind of at that best space mentally to be well-rounded socially and emotionally, as well as academically.
Yeah, I definitely agree with a lot of the things you say. So our last question is, you mentioned that students should focus more on cultivating their passions. What are some steps you think schools and teachers should take to facilitate this?
Yeah, so I think it starts with a lot of the ways that we form questions. So, just as a young kid, you're asked all the time, what do you want to be when you grow up? Right? Like that's commonly the first question. It's like, hey, how are you? What do you want to be when you grow up? But instead of asking those questions and really thinking of a narrow scope of, well, what do I want to be when I grow up? That really leads to only one job specific path. Instead, ask, well, how do you want to use your passions to make the world a better place? And what problems do you see in the world that you could potentially contribute to? And really shifting that mindset of you have to go into the job force and you have to, have a 9 to 5 and all these typical things. Instead, well, what are you going to do to make an impact on the world? And so that's really just a very simple switch. And I find myself doing that. And really for younger kids, it really kind of stifles curiosity when you're only being asked, what job, 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 job. All kids I know have that answer, even if it's not necessarily what they care about. And then in terms of in the classroom, right, more hands-on projects, mandating, having an internship and having like basically this idea of, instead of being tested on tests and quizzes and all these things that we basically just forget the knowledge of, instead having projects where you work together, you learn the importance of collaboration, because so often we see other students as competition. Someone got a 92, you got a 91, and all of a sudden they're going to go to Harvard and you're not. But really, it's quite the opposite, because when you all get to those spaces in the business world or whatever world you end up in, you have to know how to collaborate. And so people might wonder, well, why are we so competitive? It's because it comes from being slapped on, this is your number and this is your worth. And then on the flip side is having these internships and fellowships and ambassadorships as part of our daily curriculum. And so many schools in different places, it's kind of mandated that you get an internship, you get an apprenticeship, you learn whatever skill you need. Not only builds your, resume, but it also kind of shows you, well, this is what I'm interested in, and this is what I'm not interested in. And it really kind of puts you one step further than just taking a biology or a physics or a history course, but really getting a hands-on experience of, I like being a leader, I'm good at this, I need to improve on that, and really having something to say for yourself, but also learning more about what you care about.
Really appreciate your openness and honesty when it comes to this topic. I definitely see a switch from more like traditional education to what you're talking about. And I think having conversations like this is going to be really important in the future. So thank you for your time today.
Of course. course. Thank you so much for having me.